everybody! Today's June 3rd, so it's time to do my movies that I saw in the month post that I do every month. I did get super sick in May, so I think it's pretty impressive that I ended up even seeing as many as I did. So the first movie that I saw in May in the theaters was April in the Extraordinary World. And this I had seen in April, but then I got to see it at the premiere here in Salt Lake, and we had a steampunk kind of party, and I got to be the host, so that was a really, really neat experience. It's a really cool movie. If you can get a chance to see it, definitely do. It's a movie that takes the steampunk and actually takes it literally and what the world would be like if it ran on only steam and had not progressed beyond that point. And there are certain points in the movie that you either go with or you don't go with. I went with it, but I can see how it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea because it definitely takes some big risks. The animation is gorgeous. I love it. I really liked all of the French voice cast. Marion Cotillard has a very small part, but it's just wonderful. And I was so impressed. I went with my friend who has a little girl, and she did so well with the subtitles, and I think that's so impressive. I think we tend to think that kids won't do things like that, but they really will if we give them the opportunity. So it's just a bold, different, beautiful movie. Okay, then next I saw Mother's Day, which I hated. I didn't like any of the plot points with any of the characters that are all splintered off from Gary Marshall. He can do good movies. I talked in my review about Raising Helen and how that did touch on some themes of motherhood and some characters, and really how different women accept motherhood in different ways. That had none of that here. Here was just cliches and caricatures and horrible slapstick, and the thing that put it over the top to me to be one of the worst of the year was these redneck parent characters, which were so awful. They're supposed to be like kind of like a Cousin Eddie type character, and they were way worse than that. There was nothing lovable about them at all. It was horrible, and I hated that movie so much. And then next I saw the Angry Birds movie, and I didn't really care for it very much. It's very kind of crude. I didn't like the humor. It was too adult for me for this type of film. And I felt like it had a really odd message for a movie that is at least trying to appeal to children. Going into it, I thought that it was going to be sort of a Grinch type story, but where a character learns to not be angry. But in reality, it's actually the reverse. It turns out that like the people, the birds that aren't angry are actually really kind of stupid and gullible, whereas like Red, because he is angry, is somehow smarter and more confident. And that's why I felt like they kind of mashed together confidence and anger, which was really odd message, I think. And I didn't think it was that funny. I really felt if you like Minions, then you probably will like Angry Birds movie. And the animation's pretty good, so I give it some credit for that, but it's not a good film. And next, I had a rough month, I would say, for the most part. I forgot. I saw Captain America Civil War. And this was an excellent film. I really liked it. Everything we've seen from Tony and everything we've seen from Steve has kind of gotten to them to this point where one wants to give up his agency for the protection of the Sokovia Accord because of the poor choices that Tony has made and the anxiety that he's felt in the previous films. Whereas Steve Rogers has seen that authority actually hurt people, with what he found in The Winter Soldier, with S.H.I.E.L.D. being compromised, what he saw during World War II, all that stuff. So their perspectives really made sense, and I thought that sort of conflict between these two characters that I really like was really, really compelling, and I felt like especially the last segment of it was super intense and really well done. I loved the airport scene, as most everyone does. I thought it was super good, and I really liked Spider-Man. I thought he was very entertaining. Overall, I just can't imagine why anybody wouldn't be at least moderately entertained by this film. I thought it was great. Next, I have Alice Through the Looking Glass, which was the sequel no one really wanted. I think the original Alice in Wonderland made a lot of money. It wasn't really beloved by very many people, and because it just wasn't Alice in Wonderland to a lot of people, and just throwing in this whole prophecy and making it so dark and so unpleasant and joyless, like people really didn't respond as far as a movie that they love to the original, even if they bought tickets to the first time it was playing. So now the second one came 6 years later, and people just didn't want it. And it wasn't a good movie, and that's part of the reason too. And they kind of give all of these things that Alice has to do, but they don't give her good enough sort of moral reason for doing them, because supposedly she's doing them out of friendship to the Mad Hatter, but we never really felt that before in the previous film, or even in this film. Their friendship doesn't seem that strong, and so it just feels shallow. And when you know it's a bad movie when everything comes down to a lie over tarts. Which it kind of does. And like basically everything that's bad happened, all of this like apocalyptic destruction that we see in the first movie, can all be now related to what happened over a lie over tarts. And Anne Hathaway's terrible in it. She's so bad. Johnny Depp's annoying. It's just not a good movie. I saw Love and Friendship, and this is the Whit Stillman film. Hilarious. It's based on the little-known Jane Austen novel Lady Susan, which I have now read, and I loved it. It takes a really kind of unlikable character who just kind of forces herself on all of these people and manipulates them, including her own daughter, but she still does it in such a way that makes you smile. It's just impeccably made. The costumes, of course, the script is really, really good. All the sets, everything. It's just a delight. You should totally go see it. It's really, really a fun movie. And I saw X-Men Apocalypse, which if you saw my rant, you know I did not care for that film, and I was so excited for it because I love Days of Future Past. I love most of the X-Men films, and so for me this falls into the bad X-Men films. It's not as bad as X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I think it's about an even tie to Last Stand in my view. I really, really didn't like this movie. I thought it was sound and fury signifying nothing. To me it reminded me of a Transformers movie with the big bad booming villain that we don't really get to know. We don't really care about them. There's all of this destruction, but we never see any of the consequences of that destruction. At the end, Magneto's like, bye. He's just killed millions of people. Bye-bye. And I just felt like it was so fragmented. There, you spend like 10 minutes with Magneto, and then you spend 10 minutes with Mystique, and then you spend 10 minutes with Storm. And so none of these characters feel developed. None of them feel substantial, and so it just leaves you feeling frustrated, and there's no like sense of objectivity or goal upon the part of any of the members of the team, either Apocalypse's team or the other team, because like in Days of Future Past, they had a clear goal that they were going to go and change Mystique's mind. Wolverine was going to. So it was actually pretty simple, whereas this, it's just all over the place. Everyone's just kind of flinging different things, hoping it works. And like you never get like a real explanation of why these different people become the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It just kind of happens. But I mean, Magneto, he goes from this home life to killing millions of people, and without really even asking any questions of Apocalypse, not wanting to know kind of what he just says, oh, I want a better world, but we don't know what that means. And so there's no reason to believe why would he agree to all of this. I know that he's grieving, but you think he would at least say, okay, what do you mean by better world? Let's talk about it for a second. And you get the exposition scenes with Rose Byrne, and yet, despite having those exposition scenes, they learn nothing that helps them, so they're just kind of a waste. And you get the Quicksilver scene, but we already had that once before, so I did not like it. I thought it was really lame, so I was super disappointed by X-Men Apocalypse. Okay, then I saw The Meddler, the super cute indie film starring Susan Sarandon and Rose Byrne. And she is a widow, Susan Sarandon, who has moved to Los Angeles to be closer to her daughter, who is a screenwriter, and she's just gotten a pilot sold. And so Susan Sarandon's character is basically kind of bored. Her name is Marnie. And so she makes friends with all these different people that are sort of around her, and she's kind of nosy, but she's also very helpful, and she agrees to pay and help plan this lesbian wedding that's a sort of a side friend of her daughter's. She meets this guy at the Apple store that she starts to help and sort of mentor, and then she meets J.K. Simmons, who is like this cop, and they have great chemistry, really fun. It's not like a great movie, it's definitely very sitcom-y, but I really did enjoy it. The performances were sort of there enough, and it was sincere enough, and I liked the characters enough to sort of forgive the more sitcom-y elements. So if you can see it, I think you'd enjoy it. It's definitely worth a rental. Okay, and then next I saw Me Before You, which if it didn't have the ending and sort of the disabled part of it, I would probably love this movie, because I do like dopey romances. I like my Hallmark original movies or Lifetime or whatever like that. I even liked last year's The Longest Ride, which most people hated, but I just can't give this film a pass, because I feel like the message that it's sharing about the choices that a disabled person has, and that suicide is somehow something that is celebrated, something that is empowering to our female character at the end of the movie, where she's going to go and live boldly because he's made this sacrifice for her. I really found that repulsive and disgusting. So I can't support this film. I have the first Monday in May, and this I was able to stream. And it is about the Metropolitan Museum of Art and their Met Gala that they have every year. And this is a huge celebrity event where everyone gets very like couture and very avant-garde. That's the word I'm looking for. Very avant-garde, very artistic, of course, because it's a museum. And so you get to sort of learn about these different dresses and how they sort of plan the exhibit, which I thought was interesting. It could have been a little bit... Sometimes it got a little bit boring because I just didn't care that much about certain aspects of it. They could have gone a little bit more into maybe some of the personalities or some of the life of some of the curators or something like that, just to give it a little bit more of a heart to it, less of a History Channel feature or something like you'd see on E! Or something. But I still did like it, and it's really fun to see that fashion, how everything kind of comes together. So it was good. And then the last movie that I saw in May is called Bling. And this is an animated film that I was asked to review for rotoscopers.com. And so I watched it and I didn't like it. It's Korean made, so I think there might be something sort of lost in translation a little bit. But it's weird. Like, it starts out with this kid, he's proposing to his friend, and the movie like takes this little child proposing thing like very seriously. And he has I think a candy ring or something, or a pop top ring, and her mother's like, "You're not gonna accept a ring like that." I'm like, this is like, they're like 7. Like, this is so weird. And so he like dreams of proposing with like the worthwhile ring his whole life. And it's weird because sometimes it seems like their girlfriend, boyfriend, but then it doesn't. And like all of the emphasis on the whole story is on purchasing the bigger ring. It's very materialistic. And he like uses all these credit cards and gets all this debt to buy this ring. And then there's this villain who's also in love with this other woman who hates him, which is kind of a strange thing. And he thinks that if he gets the bigger ring, that like then she'll say yes. And it's like, why would you want to be married to somebody that hates you? Like, it's just a weird, they're missing that element of like, this is for a marriage. This is not just for a wedding. This is not just a proposal. And so I thought that was a weird message for kids. And there's just tons of toilet humor. It's just, the animation actually is not half bad, but it's a bad movie. I gave it 1 star for rotoscopers.com. So yeah, it's not good. But that is my movies I saw in the month of May. So yeah, pretty good month, I would say. The best movie that I saw this month is Love and Friendship. The worst movie that I saw this month is Mother's Day. And so yeah, that was my month. So let me know what you saw this month. And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!